lay 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 la 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 lay mone awalay kudera lay lay
lay lay lay lay la 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 dano awalay kudera.
The Complete History of Zeila, Zeila, a medieval city. The Gulf of Aden, which links the Red Sea region to the Indian Ocean world, was, and remains, one of the busiest maritime passages in the world. Tucked along its northwestern shores of Somalia was the medieval port city of Zeila, which commanded much of the trade between the northern Horn of Africa and the western Indian Ocean. The city of Zeila was the origin of some of the most influential scholarly communities of the Red Sea region that were renowned in Egypt, Yemen, and Syria. Its cosmopolitan society cultivated trade links with societies as far as India, while maintaining its political autonomy against the powerful empires surrounding it. This article explores the history of Zeila, outlining key historical events and figures that shaped the development of the city from the Middle Ages to the 19th century. The Gulf of Aden, which links the Red Sea region to the Indian Ocean world, was, and remains, one of the busiest maritime passages in the world. The medieval port city of Zeila, which commanded much of the trade between the northern Horn of Africa and the western Indian Ocean. The northern coastline of Somalia is dotted with many ancient settlements that flourished in the early centuries of the Common Era. These settlements included temporary markets and permanent towns, some of which were described in the Periplus, a first-century travel guidebook that mentions the enigmatic town of Awalites, a small locality close to the African side of the narrow strait of Bab al-Mandab. Some scholars initially identified Awalites as Zeila, although material culture dating to this period has yet to be identified at the site. Zeila first appears in historical records in the 9th century account of the geographer al-Yaqubi, who describes it as an independent port from which commodities such as leather, incense, and amber were exported to the Red Sea region. Later accounts from the 10th century by al-Istakri, al-Mas'udi, and Ibn Hawqal describe Zeila as a small port linked to the Hejaz and Yemen, although it's not described as a Muslim town. Zeila remained a relatively modest port between the 10th and 11th centuries on the periphery of the late Aksumite state, whose export trade was primarily conducted through the islands of Dahlak. It wasn't until the early 13th century that Zeila reappeared in the accounts of geographers and chroniclers such as Yaqut, Ibn Sa'id, and Abul Fida, who describe it as a Muslim city governed by local sheikhs. Zeila was regarded as an important stopping place for Muslim pilgrims en route to the Hejaz, as well as for the circulation of merchants, scholars, pilgrims, and mercenaries between Yemen and the sultanates of the northern Horn of Africa. A 15th-century Ethiopian chronicle describing the wars of King Amda Seyon in 1332 mentions the presence of a king at Zeila, Negusa Zela. The famous globetrotter Ibn Battuta, who briefly visited the city in 1331, describes it as the capital of the Berbera, Somali, a people of the blacks who follow the doctrine of Shafi'i, adding that it was a large city with a big market whose butcheries of camels and the smell of fish stalls made it rather unwelcoming. The Egyptian chronicler al-Umari, writing in the 1330s from information provided by scholars from the region, mentions that the Walasma Sultan of Ifat, Aufat, was reigning over Zeila, the port where the merchants who go to this kingdom approach. The import is more considerable, especially with silk and linen fabrics imported from Egypt, Yemen, and Iraq. He notes that external writers refer to the entire region as the country of Zeila, which is, however, only one of their cities on the sea whose name has extended to the whole.
Lai 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 la 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 lai mone awalail kudera hai lai lai
la 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 la